He was the most famous voice in Rome. The Senate sentenced him to death. The emperor changed the sentence to something many Romans feared more: a barren island. Alone. Indefinitely. 8 years later, the words he wrote on that rock were consoling the very people who had cheered his fall, and 20 centuries later, they still steady millions. This is the story of Seneca, and the exile that could not touch him. Rome, in the final years of the Emperor Caligula. If you wanted to hear the future of Latin, you went to hear Seneca speak. He was a senator, a philosopher, and the most dazzling orator of his generation, so dazzling that the emperor himself grew jealous. Caligula dismissed his style as sand without lime, and then, according to the historians, considered having him killed. What saved him was almost comic. Someone at court whispered that Seneca was so sick, he would soon be dead anyway. They were half right. Seneca had been ill his entire life, his lungs so weak that as a young man, he confessed, only the thought of his aging father had kept him from ending it. Remember that everything you are about to see was done by a man who was never, not for 1 year, fully well. He had fame. He had a family. He had, at last, a baby son. And in the year 41, in the space of a single month, he lost all of it. First, the child died. Seneca buried his son in the arms of his mother, Helvia. She had come to Rome to help the family grieve. 20 days later, Rome came for Seneca himself. Caligula had been assassinated. The new emperor, Claudius, was barely on the throne, and the court was a nest of knives. The Empress Messalina accused Seneca of adultery with the emperor's niece, Julia Livilla. Was it true? Even Roman historians doubted it. Julia was a rival Messalina wanted gone, and Seneca was simply in the way. The truth didn't matter. The Senate obliged, and the sentence was death. Claudius commuted it to exile. To a Roman, this was not mercy. Exile was called a civil death, your career erased, your property seized, your name unspoken in the forum. The most famous voice in Rome was shipped to a rock in the Mediterranean, and the city moved on as if he had never existed. His destination was Corsica, wild, mountainous, and in Roman eyes the end of the world. Seneca himself called it a barren rock. He was 45 years old, grieving his son, exiled for a crime that was probably invented. If ever a man had earned the right to despair, it was him. And at first, he almost did. Let's be honest about this, because Seneca the man is more useful to us than Seneca the saint. From Corsica he wrote poems bitter enough to sting, about the island's heat, its emptiness, its silence. He even wrote a letter to one of the emperor's officials so full of flattery that scholars have winced at it for 2,000 years. The sound of a drowning man reaching for a rope. The rope never came. 1 year passed. Then 2. Then 5. No recall. No pardon. No audience. Just the sea, the rocks, and a philosophy he had, until now, mostly preached to others. Picture what those years actually looked like. A man who had dined with senators now drew his own water and watched the same waves repeat themselves, morning after morning. The letters he sent to Rome went unanswered. The friends who had filled his house were suddenly very busy. In a world without his audience, Seneca was left with the one listener he had always found hardest to face, himself. Stoicism teaches that everything outside your judgment, status, wealth, reputation, even your homeland, is on loan from fortune. On Corsica, fortune called in every loan at once. And this is where the story turns. Because somewhere on that island, Seneca stopped writing letters asking to come back, and started writing a letter that would outlive Rome itself. It was addressed to the person whose grief weighed on him most, his mother. Think about what that means. A man loses his son, his career and his freedom, and from his exile he writes a letter, comforting his mother about losing him. The letter survives. We can still read it today. It opens with 3 simple words. My best of mothers. And then Seneca does something remarkable. One by one, he takes her fears and answers them. Her first fear is the word itself. Exile. It sounds like the end of the world, he admits. But look at it calmly, and what is exile, really? Only this, a change of place. That is the whole of it, he writes. A man moves from one place to another. And nothing that matters stays behind. The sky over Corsica holds the same stars. Nature travels with the exile. So does virtue. So does the mind. And, he says, no one who can look up at the heavens is truly banished. Wherever a man stands, Seneca writes, the same nature surrounds him, and the wise man treats every country as his own. Her second fear, poverty. Look at how little a body actually needs, he tells her. Food, shelter, warmth. Everything beyond that is decoration, and decoration was never the source of anyone's peace. He had watched Rome's richest men at their banquets, and he reminds her of what they both knew. The men with the most were rarely the men most at rest. On Corsica, stripped of everything decorative, Seneca was running the experiment on himself, and the result kept surprising him. The days were bearable. The nights, under those enormous stars, were sometimes more than bearable. The catastrophe everyone in Rome pitied him for had, on inspection, a survivor walking around inside it. And then the sentence at the heart of it all. No man loses anything by the frowns of fortune, unless he has been deceived by her smiles. Fortune can only take back what she gave. The house, the title, the applause in the forum, hers, always hers, merely lent. But what Seneca had built inside, his judgment, his learning, his character, had made the crossing to Corsica with him, untouched by the verdict of any senate. He wasn't writing theory anymore. He was writing an inventory of what was left when everything else was taken, and discovering, sentence by sentence, that it was enough. The grieving mother in Rome received, from the barren rock, the steadiest words she would ever read. 8 years. That is how long Rome left its greatest writer on the island. Then politics, which had exiled him, retrieved him. A new empress, Agrippina, needed a famous tutor for her young son, and recalled Seneca to Rome. He returned to wealth and power beyond anything he had lost. And the boy he was hired to teach would become the Emperor Nero, a story of gold, blood, and one final act of courage that deserves its own telling. But that is for another time. What matters here is smaller, and closer. The letter from the rock came back to Rome before Seneca did, and Rome never forgot it. We don't know the moment Helvia finished reading it. But we know she kept it, Rome kept it, through fire and fall and 15 centuries of copying by candlelight, because people in every age recognized what it was, proof that a human being can lose almost everything and still stand. Prisoners have read it in their cells. Refugees in their camps. Patients in their wards. 8 years of exile, distilled into a single page of calm. So what do we take from the man on the rock? Not that loss doesn't hurt. Seneca never claims that, and his bitter poems prove he lived it. The lesson is his inventory. Tonight, try it. Take what you fear to lose, the job, the house, the standing among your colleagues, and ask of each one, honestly, did fortune give this? Because whatever she gave, she can recall, that was never the part that was yours. Then look at what remains, your judgment, your learning, the way you treat people, the mind that is reading these words right now. That is the part no senate can vote away, no empress can confiscate, no island can hold. Seneca called it the one possession that follows us into exile. Count it, and you will find, as he did on that barren rock, that you were never as poor as your fears insisted. Fortune's frowns can only take what her smiles once lent. Everything else is yours.